Saint Augustine commentary on Psalm 60 following. God has spoken in his Holy One, verse 6. In what Holy One of his? God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself, 2 Corinthians 5:19. In that Holy One of whom elsewhere you have heard, O God, in the Holy One is your way. I will rejoice and will divide Sitchima, and the valley of tabernacles I will measure out. Sitchima is interpreted shoulders, but according to history, Jacob, returning from Laban, his father-in-law, with all his kindred, hid the idols in Sitchima, Genesis 35:4, which he had from Syria, where for a long time he had dwelt, and at length was coming from thence. But tabernacle he made there because of his sheep and herds, and called the place tabernacles. And these I will divide, says the Church. What is this I will divide, Sitchima? If to the story where the idols were hidden is the reference, the Gentiles it signifies. I divide the Gentiles. I divide is what? For not in all men is there faith. I divide is what? Some will believe, others will not believe. The shoulders are divided in order that their sins may burden some men, while others may take up the burden of Christ. For godly shoulders he was requiring when he said, For my yoke is gentle and my burden is light. Matthew 11:30. Another burden oppresses and loads you, but Christ's burden relieves you. Another burden has weight, Christ's burden has wings. For even if thou pull off the wings from a bird, thou dost remove a kind of weight, and the more weight you have taken away, the more on earth it will abide. She that you have chosen to disturb and lies there, she flies not, because you have taken off a weight. Let there be given back the weight, and she flies. Such is Christ's burden. Let men carry it, and not be idle. Let them not be heeded that will not bear it. Let them bear it that will, and they shall find how light it is, how sweet, how pleasant, how ravishing unto heaven, and from earth how transporting. Perchance, because of the sheep of Jacob, the valley of tabernacles is to be understood of the nation of the Jews, and the same is divided. For they have passed from thence that have believed, the rest have remained without. Mine is Galaad, verse 7. These names are read in the scriptures of God. Galaad has the voice of an interpretation of its own and of a great mystery. For it is interpreted the heap of testimony. How great a heap of testimony in the martyrs! Mine is Galaad. Mine is a heap of testimony. Mine are the two martyrs. Then meanly esteemed was the church among men. Then reproach on her a widow was being thrown, because Christ she was, because the sign of the cross on her brow she was wearing. Not yet was there honor, censure there was then. When therefore not honor but censure there was, then was made a heap of witness, and through the heap of witness was the love of Christ enlarged, and through the enlargement of the love of Christ were the Gentiles possessed. There follows, and mine is Manasseh's, which is interpreted forgotten, for to her had been said, Confusion for everlasting you shall forget, and of the reproach of your widowhood you shall not be mindful. Isaiah 54:4. There was therefore a confusion of the church once, which now has been forgotten, for of her confusion and of the reproach of her widowhood, now she is not mindful. For when there was a sort of confusion among men, a heap of witness was made. Now, no longer does any even remember that confusion when it was a reproach to be a Christian. Now no one remembers. Now all have forgotten. Now mine is Manasseh's, and Ephraim the strength of my head. Ephraim is interpreted fruitfulness. Mine, he says, is fruitfulness, and this fruitfulness is the strength of my head. For my head is Christ. And whence is fruitfulness the strength of him? Because unless a grain were to fall into the earth, it would not be multiplied, alone it would remain. John 12:24. For then to earth did Christ in his passion, and there followed fruit-bearing in the resurrection. He was hanging and was being despised. The grain was within. It had powers to draw after it all things. How in a grain do numbers of seeds lie hid? Something abject it appears to the eyes, but a power turning into itself matter and bringing forth fruit is hidden. So in Christ's cross virtue was hidden, there appeared weakness. O mighty grain, doubtless weak is he that hangs, doubtless before him that people did wag the head. Doubtless they said, if Son of God he is, let him come down from the cross. Matthew 27:40. Here the strength of him, that which is a weak thing of God, is stronger than men. 1 Corinthians 1:25. With reason so great fruitfulness has followed, it is mine, says the church. Judah is my king, Moab the part of my hope. Verse 7. What Judah? He that is of the tribe of Judah. What Judah but he to whom Jacob himself said, Judah, your brethren shall praise you? Genesis 49:8. What therefore should I fear when Judah my king says, fear not them that kill the body? Matthew 10:28. Moab the part of my hope. Wherefore part? Because tribulation. Wherefore of my hope? Because there has gone before Judah my king. Moab is perceived in the Gentiles. For that nation was born of sin. Genesis 19:37. That nation was born of the daughters of Lot, who lay with their father drunken, abusing a father. Better were it to have remained barren than thus to have become mothers. But this was a kind of figure of them that abuse the law. For do not heed that law in the Latin language is of the feminine gender, in Greek of the masculine gender it is, but whether it be of the feminine gender in speaking or of the masculine, the expression makes no difference to the truth. For law has rather a masculine force, because it rules is not ruled. But moreover, the Apostle Paul says what? Good is the law, if anyone use it lawfully. 1 Timothy 1:8. But those daughters of Lot unlawfully used their father. But in the same manner as good works begin to grow when a man uses well the law, so arise evil works when a man ill uses the law. Furthermore, the ill using their father, that is, ill using the law, engendered the Moabites, by whom are signified evil works. Thence the tribulation of the church, thence the pot boiling up. Of this pot in a certain place of prophecy is said, a pot heated by the north wind. Whence but by the quarters of the devil, who has said, I will set my seat at the north. Isaiah 14:13. The chiefest tribulations therefore arise against the church from none except from those that ill use the law. Into Idumea I will stretch out my shoe. Verse 8. The church speaks, I will come through even into Idumea. Let tribulations rage, let the world boil with offenses, even unto those very persons that lead an earthly life, for Idumea is interpreted earthly. Even unto those same, even unto Idumea, I will stretch out my shoe. Of what thing the shoe except of the gospel? How beautiful the feet of them that tell of peace, that tell of good things. Romans 10:15. And the feet shod unto the preparation of the gospel of peace. Ephesians 6:15. In these times we see, brethren, how many earthly men do perpetrate frauds for the sake of gain. For frauds, perjuries, on account of their fears, they consult fortune tellers, astrologers. All these men are Edomites, earthly, and nevertheless all these men adore Christ, under his own shoe they are. Now even unto Idumea he stretched out his shoe. To me Allophalai have been made subject. Who are Allophalai? Men of other race, not belonging to my race. They have been made subject because many men adore Christ and are not to reign with Christ. Who will lead me down into the city of standing round? Verse 9. What is the city of standing round? If you remember already, I have made mention thereof in another psalm wherein has been said, and they shall go around the city. For the city of standing round is the compassing around of the Gentiles, which compassing around of the Gentiles in the middle thereof had the one nation of the Jews worshipping one God. The rest of the compassing around of the Gentiles to idols made supplication, demons they did serve. And mystically it was called the city of standing round, because on all sides the Gentiles had poured themselves around, and had stood around that nation which did worship one God. Who will lead me down, even unto Idumea? Wilt not thou, O God, that hast driven us back? And will not thou, O God, march forth in our powers? Verse 10. Wilt not thou lead us down, that hast driven us back? But wherefore hast driven us back? Because you have destroyed us. Wherefore hast destroyed us? Because angry you have been and hast had pity on us. Thou therefore wilt lead down, that hast driven back. Thou, O God, that will not march forth in our powers, wilt lead down. What is will not march forth in our powers? The world is to rage, the world is to tread us down. There is to be a heap of witnesses built of the spilt blood of martyrs, and the raging heathen are to say, where is the God of them? Then you will not march forth in our powers. Against them you will not show yourself, you will not show your power, such as you have shown in David, in Moses, in Joshua, the son of Nun, when to their might the Gentiles yielded, and when the slaughter had been ended, and the great laying waste repaired, into the land which thou promised thou leadest in your people. This thing then you will not do, you will not march forth in our powers, but within you will work. What is, will not march forth? Wilt not show yourself? For indeed, when in chains the martyrs were being led along, when they were being shut up in prison, when they were being led forth to be mocked, when to the beasts they were exposed, when they were being smitten with the sword, when with fire they were being burnt, were they not despised, as thou forsaken, as thou without helper? In what manner was God working within? In what manner within was he comforting? In what manner to these men was he making sweet the hope of life everlasting? In what manner was he not forsaking the hearts of them, where the man was dwelling in silence, well if good, ill if evil? Was he then by any means forsaking, because he was not marching forth in the powers of them? By not marching forth in the powers of them, did he not the more lead down the church even unto Idumea, lead down the church even into the city of standing around? For if the church chose to war and to use the sword, she would seem to be fighting for life present, but because she was despising life present, therefore there was made a heap of witness for the life that shall be. Thou therefore, O God, that will not march forth in our powers, give to us aid from tribulation, and vain is the safety of man. Verse 11. Go now, they that sought have not, and desire safety temporal for their friends, which is empty oldness. Give to us said from thence whence you were supposed to forsake, thence succor. In God we will do valor, and himself to nothing shall bring down our enemies. Verse 12. We will not do valor with a sword, not with horses, not with breastplates, not with shields, not in the mightiness of an army, not abroad, but where? Within, where we are not seen. Where within? In God we will do virtue. And as if abject, and as if trodden down, men as if of no consideration we shall be. But himself to nothing shall bring down our enemies. In a word, this thing has been done to our enemies. Trodden down have been the martyrs, by suffering, by enduring, by persevering, even unto the end. In God they have done the enemies of them. In God they have done valor. Himself also has done that which follows. To nothing he has brought down the enemies of them. Where are now the enemies of the martyrs, except perchance that now drunken men with their caps do persecute those whom at that time frenzied men did use with stones to persecute?